What was it sort of like going to the high school where both your parents were legends?
It was really cool. I had a chance to kind of like read about some of the history, some of the records that my dad held, some of the things that my mom did, and like it was kind of cool to like chase that throughout my, the first 3 years of my high school career.
Who had the single game scoring record before you got to high school?
My dad held it for a long time. Then
I know.
someone came through. Yeah, it's someone after him and came through, and then I got it. So
You almost had the career record, but then you left for your senior year. So you were 44 points shy of the career record. Was he a little bit happy about that? You gotta hang on to one record because
yeah, I gave him one. Yeah, no, honestly, it did kind of stink not being able to like fully, get a lot of the records that I wanted to because I think there was some like hanging on like that one and a couple others, but I definitely left my dad a couple.
Welcome to the Zengame podcast. I'm Tommy Morris. Here at Zengame, we get in the minds of your favorite college athletes. Jackson, I'll let you introduce yourself. Who are you? Where do you play? And what position do you play?
Hey, I'm Jackson McVey. I am from LaGrange, Georgia. I'm a redshirt freshman at Georgia Tech, and I am a center.
So before we even get into your college career, we got to go all the way back to infancy, I guess, because your whole family played basketball. So I think you didn't have a choice, basically. Family's playing horse. Who wins? Your mom, your dad, or you?
I'll say this, like my mom always had like the best shot. So, I always had to kind of, beat her out. But once I hit like middle school, it was me every time. I'm not gonna lie. So I'll take the credit.
Okay, so I'm gonna call your parents right now and tell them that you beat them in horse, and they're gonna corroborate that story.
I mean, they should. If not, it's not the truth. So, I mean,
Both of your parents are in the Hall of Fame. I assume that's on the way for you at some point too. What was it sort of like going to the high school where both your parents were legends?
it was really cool. I had a chance to kind of like read about some of the history, some of the records that my dad held, some of the things that my mom did, and like it was kind of cool to like chase that throughout my, the first 3 years of my high school career. My senior year, I pivoted and went to like Atlanta to go to a prep school to kind of like bump up the competition and get ready for, college. But no, it was really cool seeing like, how my game progressed and like how I kind of, upped the ranks and kind of like, made my name in the same history books that my mom and dad were able to when I was younger.
I was gonna say, who had the single game scoring record before you got to high school?
So my dad held it for a long time. Then
I know.
someone came through. Yeah, it's someone after him and came through, and then I got it. So
What was that like taking his record? Was he happy? Was he sad? Was he a little bit happy and sad at the same time? What was the reaction?
oh no, my dad he was elated. Like anytime I could do anything to beat him out, he was a good sport about it. Like so, I give him credit for that. But my brother's coming up right now. He has a senior year coming up, and there's a chance that he breaks mine. So, I'm the same way. If he breaks mine, I'll be happy for him. So we'll live with the results.
So you mentioned you transferred overtime elite. I'm going to mention your dad one more time because you almost had the career record, but then you left for your senior year. So you were 44 points shy of the career record. Was he a little bit happy about that? You gotta hang on to one record because
Yeah, I gave him one. Yeah, no, honestly, it did kind of stink not being able to like fully, get a lot of the records that I wanted to because I think there was some like hanging on like that one and a couple others. But yeah, leave my senior year. It was a business decision. And I was glad I was able to do that. But no, I definitely left my dad a couple.
So overtime elite's a unique experience. And I think for you, probably more than any other athlete, it was probably more necessary because you had a game where you had 37 points and 30 rebounds in high school. Clearly, it was too easy, just to be blunt. And I think for you being as tall as you are, it's probably hard to find other 7-footers to play against. So what went into the decision process to go through the overtime route?
Yeah, it was becoming evident that I needed a bump up in competition, especially going from high school to where college is nowadays, where you're playing against grown men, dudes that have extra eligibility, guys that are just genetic freaks. So I had to go from I could either go from playing my one of my guys back home that I bumped with every day, or I could like take another step up. And I decided to go to overtime elite and face some newer guys that were kind of like closer to my size, and it would be a smoother transition to college.
What is it like kind of your senior year of high school going into what feels almost like professional basketball, and how did you stay on track?
It definitely was like a mental decision. It was hard at times, seeing, my friends back home do things that, I missed out on my senior year. But to be honest, I've always wanted to do this, professionally for a job. And I knew that I had to make certain sacrifices in order to make that, dream come true. And, I still got a ways to go, but that was something I was comfortable with doing because I knew that it would benefit my future. And that's what I'm in it for.
And you mentioned, is the recruiting process a little bit different when you're in a program like that versus in high school? I know obviously you're around talent that everyone's Division I or aspiring to be, right? Does it? Do you think it made that big of a difference in where you ended up at the end of the day, or do you think that that would have naturally happened on its own?
I will say I did have some high major offers in high school, but the recruitment definitely picked up as soon as I went to Overtime Elite because I think it kind of certified me as someone who can hang with a higher level of guys. I think even being around those different groups of guys kind of helped me mentally, knowing that I could do it. So I'm not just going against you know the guys from my hometown. I'm going against guys from all across the country, and knowing that I can hang with them, I think was good for me mentally, and I think it's also good for cross coaches to see and it added this like a level of authenticity to my game.
And then you start your career at Georgia. Sort of what went into the decision to end up there, and how was that first year experience?
Originally, I weighed out my options, fully, and it truly did seem like the right decision. I don't regret my time there one bit. I think that I used that year to really, progress my game. I went against, Sumter every day in practice, which he was a insane talent. He's a great big. We'll see him sometime in the ACC this year, but yeah, no, I don't regret my time at all. I was able to redshirt, keep eligibility, but also progress my game. So I don't regret it at all. I think that it was a great time, met with some great people, and now I'm glad where I'm at, and I'm able to, further my game here.
How do you guys weigh the NIL aspect versus the how will this help me in my future if I want to play in the NBA versus the coaching staff? Like, how does all of that mix in, and how does it help, or how do you guys go about making your decision essentially?
Yeah, I'll be completely honest. As a young person, it's very hard to kind of blend, your desires and like what you want with like the money involved and everything. It's really hard to turn away more money that could help you and your family, especially when you don't have guaranteed income or whatever, for like multiple years. Whenever there's a situation that might be cheaper, but like could benefit you more in the long run. So it's really hard to weigh those options at a young age. But I'll say that I've done the best I can to really just pick a place that prioritizes me, that wants me the most, and that I feel could use me the most, regardless of money. But yeah, no, it's definitely a hard decision.
Yeah, I mean, again, like playing time is obviously an aspect. You want to be in a team that's going to go far in the tournament, so you get that exposure there. Also, switching conferences now, going from the SEC to ACC. How much exposure did you have to the ACC last year, and sort of what are your expectations of how the conferences are going to kind of compare to each other?
We played Florida State at Florida State in the SEC ACC Challenge, so I was able to be in that kind of environment. It was the fans there were pretty crazy, but yeah, I was mostly exposed to SEC schools, and I can tell you like firsthand that those home games are insane. But it's nothing like you hear the stories about UNC's, the Dukes, the different ACC teams, and I'm so excited to get in these environments. Those are the kind of things that like as a kid you look at, like you're excited for, you dream about. So I'm really excited to get in these environments.
What have you been able to sort of notice about your squad in the couple months that you've been there?
I think we have a group of a bunch of different like talented guys, but I think Coach Cross has done a really good job at creating a winning culture. I think that he brought that winning culture from Troy. We actually played Troy at UGA in one of the exhibition games, and like you could tell they were a tough team. Like they weren't just a team that you could just put away. But he really brought that from Troy to Georgia Tech. And I think that culture. I know a lot of people like aren't expecting like a good run of us, but I think we can go as far. The sky's the limit for us too. I think that we have a great group of guys and a great leader in Coach Cross that is creating the culture that we're all kind of falling into.
Can you talk a little bit about the mentality that Coach Cross brings? Because there's a little bit more money there, but I still feel like he's got that gritty mentality to him.
No, he does. I can assure you. I mean, I obviously wasn't there when he was at Troy, but I can assure you it's probably the same thing. Because he brought some of he brought some of his players from Troy to Georgia Tech, and it seems like they made a seamless transition. You can tell that he tells us every day to take the stairs. Like if there's an elevator, you don't take the easy way, you take the hard way, you take the stairs up. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not what I want to do necessarily sometimes, but after a long day. But I mean, I you got to follow the rules, but it kind of translates off the court and on the court. I mean, he's kind of instilled that in us, and I think that it's going to pay in the long run.
Doing some research, obviously, and it seems like, and again, NIL stuff, you get to partner with brands. The three favorite that you said was Chrome Hearts, a clothing brand, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes. Yeah, I know what interview you're referring to. I haven't
do you want to change your answers before do you want to change your answers?
I want to see how this shapes up, because I'll give you three new ones if it's different. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, the next one was DoorDash, which made a lot of sense because you're 7 feet tall.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to consume a ton of calories. I feel like. What's the record for most DoorDash orders you put in a day?
Okay, I'll say this. I love DoorDash, especially when we get the credits for like the team. But I try not to go crazy on it because sometimes those like $10 orders will turn into like 30 real quick with like the tips and everything. So I try to like keep at a minimum. But no, I've definitely DoorDash 2 or 3 times in a day for sure. Like and you can ask my mom. My mom, like I will eat the house out if I have to. Like whenever I get hungry, it's there's no stopping. It's
So you're
crazy.
saying the family budget probably expanded a little bit when you went to college because you weren't eating all the food in the house.
No, for sure. No, it's funny because every time I come home, like all the snacks that I used to just clean out are like still there, and I'm like, dude, like what are we doing? Like, but hey, I'm not complaining.
You got to get your brother on that. And then the last one. So this guy, I think, is a Georgia guy, right? Is Drewski from Georgia? I believe he is, right? Could have been records as
Yeah,
the
yeah,
third one.
yeah, yeah.
No, did you know about him way earlier than everyone else because you're from there?
I think I kind of knew about him whenever he was kind of blowing up, like whenever he was in the Laugh Now Cry Later music video with Drake. And he was also doing like skits and stuff with Jack Harlow. So like I will say like I'm kind of like tapped into that scene, but I'll say I probably just found out about him around whenever everyone else did. But no, yeah, Drewski, he's hilarious. I said that a couple of years ago because he has these talent shows where like people like run in and then do whatever
He's American Idol
talent.
version.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like pretty much
What
just
would
like
yours
American
be?
Idol.
If you had to audition for Could Have Been Records, what would your talent be?
Shoot, I really don't know. I would probably just I'd probably just sing, honestly. I would sing. But after I say that though,
I'm not going to make you do it.
nobody watching this, nobody asked me to sing. This is if you want to sing, you got to pay me. That's it. That's all.
I don't know, man. I feel like being 7'1" is a talent in its own. You should just stand there and be tall and be like,
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Look, I'll stand there and be tall and just hope it pays off. I mean, sometimes
Well,
it works.
speaking of being tall and being 7'1", but with that comes obviously it's harder to put on weight. But what I've heard is this offseason you've been able to kind of transform yourself. Talk about what goes into that. And again, going back to the amount of calories you have to eat and everything, it's a calculated process. How hard is it to get yourself in the shape you want to be in for a college basketball season? Because now being 7'1" isn't enough. Now you'll be 7'1" and thick.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think at Georgia, I took a great pride, especially in not playing. I think that the weight room was my best friend. I think that when I was in high school, I didn't embrace it as much as I could have, but I think in college I've really been hitting it. And I've been drinking the protein shakes, drinking the smoothies, drinking everything I can to kind of add on weight. I think I came in Georgia at 235, and now I'm sitting at like a clean like 252. So I put on like that much in muscle. So I feel like I'm at a good weight, and I've really attacked that the bodybuilding aspect of the game.
Going into the season, we talked about the gaining weight and gaining muscle, but what are the other aspects of your game you're trying to improve that Georgia Tech fans can be excited to watch next year?
I think I'm just trying to refine my skills. I think that Georgia Tech has kind of helped me bring back my outside game. I think in practices recently I've been able to really stretch the floor and make certain passes and make certain reads that I have been able to in a very long time, and I've always been capable of doing. Just keep on working on that aspect of my game, but getting more and more physical. Being a presence around the rim, things that I can do, but things that I want to keep on working on for sure.
There's probably some younger kids now who are tall, right? Who are watching this, trying to look for advice. I read that you were taller than your dad in 8th grade already, and he's 6'6". So how hard is it for somebody that tall to develop those outside skills? Because the instinct for any coach is going to be just put them on the block and just let them stand there, right? But it's harder for you to develop when that's happening. So how do you sort of balance both those things?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It's very hard as a big to kind of break off from that, just on the block role. I think that's kind of what I was growing up taught. Just camp out at the block, just stay there, turn hook, which I mean, it works, and especially if you're a big guy, it works. I think that's honestly where you need to have that in your game, no matter what. If you're big, but I think if deep down and you believe in yourself enough and you trust your game enough to where you can hit those outside shots, you should never stop working on them. And I think that the game's kind of trending in a more positionless direction. So I think that every big that feels like they have that in their game should keep working on it. And I think that bigs also tend to develop later. So I think that a big that may look clumsy freshman year of high school or even junior year of high school, in 2 years they might look like a completely different animal. So I think they just got to trust the process.
Have you ever been stuck in whether it be at overtime or your first year of college or even in high school, stuck in it where you just had to switch on a guy who's like 6 feet tall, just quick as heck. And the second he sizes you up, like, I know exactly what this guy's going to try and do.
Yeah, no, I definitely have had to switch on, like, I guess now NBA player Malik Thomas, like at overtime elite. I've had to switch on to, in practice, I've had to guard, Jasper Johnson, who's at Oregon right now, TK at Kansas. Like I've guarded a bunch of guards on switches. Like it's sometimes it's definitely like, okay, like let's do this. Like, but it's a part of the game. Like you just got to just man up and learn how to do it. But I'm blessed to have been able to go against those guys for sure.
How can you use your size your advantage when you're against a shorter, quicker guy and you're out in space like that?
I think the best thing you can do, and obviously know your personnel, know if they can shoot or not. But I think that for a smaller guy, they're either what they want to do is they either want to blow by you or they're either going to want to shoot over you. If you give them that space, I think the best thing to do is dare them to drive, but leave enough room to where you can contest the shot. And then also, if you let them drive, you can have help on the backside, like the teammate can come help you. So I think that just force them to drive. But if you're long enough, you can probably block it. And if not, your teammate should be there to help you. And then you can fix the rotation whenever, the defense adjusts.
And now for you watching your brother play, like you have a little more experience and then you also have the college experience too. What advice have you given him about not just playing, but the recruiting process and sort of everything that goes into transitioning from high school to college?
Yeah, I've really just told him to be patient, because I think that in this era with social media, you kind of just see everyone, succeeding and like, getting all this and these stars and the rankings and all this. And like, I think that for me, even like I didn't have an offer until I was going into my junior year of high school, and that was a mid-major offer. And then I didn't get a high major until I was almost going into my senior year of high school. So it's like my process was way later. And I think that for him, like it's the same thing. Like, look, like here you may be, you have this, but in a year you might have more than the guy that has more than you now. So it's just being patient, trusting the process, working every day, and knowing that the work's all going to come back and pay off eventually. Comparisons to the joy. That's one thing I really stand by. I think that you just have to trust yourself and realize that if you run your own race and you give everything you can every day, like for yourself, then you can live with the results at the end. I mean, if you're the best person you can be, then, you can't worry about anyone else because you did all you could. So.
And then just for the Georgia Tech fans, with Coach Cross coming in, well, it's obviously the team's going to look different. What do you guys expect for the season?
I think we have a hard-nosed, gritty style of play. I think that we're going to try to play a lot harder than a lot of teams guard. I've even had to rewire my brain to think guard, like even just, off the offensive rebound, just like straight into defense. Like it's definitely a new mindset, but I think that it's going to be one that's going to catch a lot of teams off guard, and it's going to definitely benefit us in the long run.
Any family members, friends, coaches you want to thank to get you to where you are in your journey and that are going to help you progress through to where hopefully is a long, successful basketball career?
For sure. Want to thank my mom, want to thank my dad. They both put countless hours into me. I think that coming from a smaller place like this, like my mom did a great job of, putting me on social media, on Twitter, whatever. And that helped, AAU teams reach out, bigger people reach out, even whenever I was a nobody. My dad, we drove to the craziest tournaments when I was younger, like 5 hours away, just for me to drop like 6 points. So like before my game was even developed, so, like they believed in me before I was anybody. And now that I like have like a little bit of traction, like the least I can do is thank them for what they've done. So mom and dad, my brother, we used to play backyard. He's always been there for me. And there's so many coaches I could thank, but it would take forever. But I definitely have had a lot of people in this process that have, helped me get to where I am today.
Well, Jackson, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Of course, man. Have a good one.
Yeah.